Good morning. Reverend John, thank you so much for those kind words. I have truly enjoyed following you as you have developed into such a wonderful minister. So I really appreciate and would like to thank both Reverend Turner and Reverend Wandra for inviting me here, as well as the whole Sangha for inviting me here to be with you today. You know, I think it's been a while since I've been to OCBC. Did you folks host a Southern District conference in the last few years? Somebody remembers, yeah. Yes, I think that was the last time I was here. So it's been a bit, and so I'm very happy to be here and be a part of your Obon service today. It's so nice to be back. If you'd kindly join me in Gasho. When I attain Buddhahood, I will cause my name to be heard throughout the countless Buddha lands of the 8 quarters, the zenith and the nadir. All Buddhas will preach my virtues and the perfections of my land to the multitudes of monks in their own lands. There will be none among the devas, human beings, and even insects that fly, crawl, or creep, who, upon hearing my name, fails to awaken a heart of compassion. Dancing with joy, they will be enabled to come and be born in my land. Namo Mirabits, Namandab, 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 Namandab. So in receiving the Dharma and in hearing Amida's name, we unfailingly awaken the compassionate heart and dance with joy as we're assured of birth in the Pure Land of Bliss. Those words are from the 2nd chapter of Kyogyo Shinsho, in which Shinran Shonin expounds on the true practice of the Pure Land Way. And it's Obon season, and soon we'll be participating in Bonodori, a gathering of joy, as we dance and celebrate the lives of our loved ones who have gone to the other shore before us. And during Obon season, we often listen to the story of Moggallana, one of the 10 great disciples of Shakyamuni Buddha. Now, I have to tell you, sometimes I encounter monku, 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 or grumbling from temple members who are tired of hearing the story of Obon. So, giving in to this complaining, one time I skipped the story of Moggallana and his mother during an Obon talk. Now, after that service, I had someone come up to me and say, "Sensei, I really enjoyed your Dharma talk, but you didn't share the Obon story of Moggallana and his mother." So, as Thomas Cromwell, the chief minister for King Henry VIII, said, "I'm damned if I do and I'm damned if I don't." Though it's also taught to me that no matter what I talk about, somebody's going to find a reason to monku. So as a compromise, I'll share an abbreviated version of the Obon story, hitting mostly the highlights. Maybe you can think of this as sort of the Cliff's Notes version of Obon. And while some would prefer if I skip the story altogether, I find that the important thing for us to do is to listen to this story of Moggallana very carefully and thoughtfully, and remember the great favors and gifts which we have received from our deceased family members and friends. So here we go. The Obon tradition comes from the Ulambana Sutra, which tells the story of Moggallana and his mother. And as you know, Moggallana was one of the 10 great disciples of Shakyamuni Buddha, who happened to have supernatural powers. And he also happened to have a very devoted mother who passed away at a fairly young age. And although he felt deep sorrow at her passing, Moggallana believed that she was in a safe place and at peace and smiling radiantly at him from the Pure Land. So even so, he had a bit of difficulty accepting the reality of his mother's death. So one day, he was wondering how she was doing, and he used his advanced spiritual abilities to look for her in the Pure Land. To his surprise, his mother was not there, and he searched for her in every corner, nook, and cranny of the Pure Land, but she was nowhere to be found. So Moggallana frantically searched through all the 6 realms of samsara to determine which realm his mother was dwelling in after her death. And he finally saw that his mother had fallen into a terrible state in the afterlife as she was reborn in the realm of hungry ghosts, where she was suffering from great hunger and thirst. And how could this have happened, he wondered. Moggallana's mother had always been really gentle and nurturing, and she always took good care of him. In fact, she had devoted her whole life to taking care of him. So why should she be among all the bad mothers who were in the realm of hungry ghosts? And what Moggallana failed to see was that while his mother treated him exceptionally well, she only focused her attention and efforts on him and treated pretty much everybody else poorly. You might say that while Moggallana had this fantastic supernatural vision, enabling him to see into other realms, he couldn't see what had been going on right in front of him. So despite his advanced spiritual or supernatural abilities, Moggallana was unable to assist his mother on his own. He then went to his teacher, Shakyamuni Buddha, who advised Moggallana that the only way to help his mom was to listen carefully to the precious teachings of superior disciples who had gathered nearby, and to make offerings of food and drink to those monks at the end of their rainy season. So when Moggallana did this, his mother's suffering was relieved, and she was freed from the realm of hungry ghosts. So Moggallana spontaneously celebrated her liberation by clapping his hands and dancing in circles of joy, thus creating the first Bonodori. He then opened up a small online shop selling happy coats, uchiwa, kachikachi, and tenagui to all the Sangha members of Southern District. Okay, I'm just kidding. It wasn't an online shop. It was a brick and mortar store. Okay, you may all start to monku now that you had to sit through the Obon story once again. As Jodo Shinshu Buddhists, we sort of have a different focus for the message conveyed in this sutra. This Obon service isn't being held for the benefit of our deceased family members. It's for our benefit that we might hear the Dharma. We're not here to attempt to save our loved ones who passed away from their possibility of suffering in the 6 realms of delusion, because Amida Buddha already took care of that many kalpas ago. We don't need to put up lanterns or light candles during Obon season to guide our loved ones to return to this realm for a visit once a year. They return and guide us constantly, for they're already enlightened beings, having been born in Amida's Pure Land. Although I must admit the lanterns do add to the festive atmosphere at the Bon Dance. Well, and we don't need to set out delicious food and drink to entice and satisfy our deceased loved ones. They are forever nourished by the Dharma and have no need for this worldly sustenance. But if you put out tasty food and drink at your Bonodori, you might attract a bunch of us Bonbu who are forever searching for good eats. So Obon and Bonodori aren't about making these supernatural journeys to the Pure Land or searching throughout the 6 realms of samsara for friends who have passed away. It's not about guiding our deceased loved ones to return to this realm or helping them to relocate to a better realm, or about making offerings to ghosts. Instead, the Ulambana Sutra reminds us to reflect on those who came before us and consider what they gave to enrich our lives. And that's the reason why we can even be here today. As we gain awareness of the great compassion that unfailingly embraces each of us, we, like the disciple Moggallana, can respond by dancing joyfully out of gratitude. And as many of you might recall, we were forced to hold a lot of online Obon services and virtual Bon dances during the height of the pandemic. And some temples tried sort of innovative things like drive-through bonadoris, or others posted videos of socially distanced dancers and taiko drummers. And due to the COVID protocols, even those limited events really lacked the rituals that we're accustomed to. And the pandemic and our desire to keep our sanghas safe and healthy stripped away much of that ritual from our spiritual activity and from our lives in general. And just as a story in the Ulambana Sutra causes us to reflect on our departed ones and their contributions to our lives, the lack of or changes to our Obon services and Bon dances during that period caused us to reflect on the importance of ritual in our lives. And I can recall a particular visitor who came pre-pandemic to a Sunday Dharma service in San Diego. And after the service, they were talking with one of our fairly long-time and active Sangha members. And this person was a bit familiar with Buddhism, but not in particular with our Pure Land school of Buddhism. And the visitor had enjoyed the service very much and was interested in learning more and possibly attending another service. And they mentioned that they had been to other Buddhist gatherings and events, although not specifically attending services at temples, and they had been meditating for a couple of years. And I sort of overheard this conversation, bits and pieces of it, and it was about at this point that the Sangha member said, "Hey, Sensei, come over here and meet a visitor." And the Sangha member introduced us and explained that I was one of the ministers at the temple. And the visitor was very pleased to meet me and remarked that as a Buddhist priest, I must spend a lot of time in meditation. And I gently explained that, well, I have practiced and do meditate, as this individual saw in the morning service. Meditation is not a central part of our Buddhist practice. And the visitor seemed to be feeling that there was something wrong with a Buddhist priest that wasn't constantly engaged in meditation. And so they eyed me suspiciously. And in fact, they wanted to know, if I don't engage in meditation all the time, what is it that I do? And I explained that I lead the weekly services, like the one they just attended, as well as doing special services and memorial services, and I conduct the ritual and the chanting and the sharing of the Dharma. I spend time studying the Buddhist teachings, I read Buddhist books, I listen to Dharma talks, I chant sutras, et cetera, these things that we're all used to participating in. But the visitor continued to eye me very suspiciously. And I began to feel that they were equating Buddhism with meditation, and the fact that I didn't mention meditation in my list of practices somehow made me an inauthentic Buddhist, and probably not at all qualified to be a minister. It's not that I don't meditate at all or have never meditated in my life. In fact, I used to go to some Zen temples when I lived in Japan, and I even tried to sit zazen once in a while, way back when my legs and back could take it. And I don't have anything against meditating. Some of my best friends are Zen Buddhists. I even spent some time meditating at a friend's temple in San Diego. And I've joined others in meditation, and I've meditated alone. Much like your mindfulness services. I guess there wasn't one today, but you usually have them Sunday morning before this service. And in San Diego, we also hold Wednesday evening sessions where we incorporate meditation in before our Dharma discussion. So while I don't think I'll ever become enlightened by sitting in meditation, I think it does help to quiet my mind, and it has other physical and mental benefits. But the one thing it doesn't do, even when I meditate among others, is make me feel truly connected to others. Sure, I feel that energy of meditating with others, of being in a room full of those who are quiet and meditating together. but I feel more energy, the kind that kind of hums in my chest when I chant with others, like when we chanted Jusege this morning, or especially when chanting Shoshin Nembutsuge and the Wasan. Chanting is really a form of ritual, and the chanting connects us to the sutras and gathas that we're voicing, and the Buddhist masters who wrote those words, and the Dharma contained in the words. Chanting Shoshinge is a ritual that can allow us to establish an emotional connection to Shinran Shonin, to the teachings that he expounded, and to those that we're chanting with, to our teachers, to our teachers' teachers, to our Sangha members, to all Sangha members who ever come before us, and so on. And where meditation can separate and isolate us, because I'm usually alone in my head with my thoughts as I sit in meditation, ritual, such as chanting, joins and unites us together. And ritual is also much more than chanting. In a religious sense, rituals are ceremonies or rites and actions done in a prescribed manner. Have you ever placed your palms together in Gasho? Anybody here? Okay, everybody here, yeah. That's a ritual. A very small one, but it's a ritual. Have you ever entered the Hondo by bowing slightly and stepping forward with your left foot first? That's a ritual, yeah. That's again, a small ritual, but we do this. Have you ever offered incense following specific movements? Yeah, I know the young ones probably know this really well. You guys could probably teach the rest of us how to do it properly. Next time you come up and give a lesson for me, okay? But that's ritual as well. In a secular sense, rituals are any sort of actions that are conducted routinely and in the same manner. Perhaps you have a morning ritual that involves things like showering, brushing your teeth, and having a cup of coffee. Perhaps you have a family ritual where you maybe eat dinner together in the evenings, or maybe you go and visit relatives and share a meal with them on Sunday after you come to service. Perhaps you have a nighttime ritual that includes things like letting the dog out. Well, make sure you bring the dog back in again too, though. And locking the doors and turning off lights and maybe turning on a nightlight or something before you go to bed. So these are secular rituals that occur in our lives, and we kind of do them automatically after a while, just like automatically putting your hands together in Gasho and voicing the Nembutsu. These are rituals that just develop in our lives, and we do them naturally. So as Jodo Shinshu Buddhists, we engage in many rituals, both religious and secular, in our daily lives. At least I know I do. I do chant daily, and I go through the small ritual of lighting a candle and burning incense at my Obutsudan at home. And I place my palms together in Gasho and bow and voice the Nembutsu. And these are all various rituals that remind me of how I am always illuminated by and connected to the works of Amida Buddha, this unfathomable and limitless light and life in everyday aspects of my life. And this time of year, a period we tend to call Obon season, which runs from June through August in most BCA temples and churches, we Shin Buddhists engage in many rituals that connect us to a multitude of lives. We connect with loved ones who have passed away, with Sangha members who have come before us, with the current Sangha members, and with Sangha members who will follow in the future. The Bonadori, or Obon dance, is an annual ritual of both solemn remembrance and joyful celebration. The Obon service usually precedes the Bonadori, and these activities together present a collection of rituals that sort of juxtapose that sorrow of loss and the joy of living. And it's customary in our temples for those who have lost a family member in the year since the previous Obon to perform a small ritual that includes lighting a candle during the Hatsubon service to remember and honor their loved one. And the candle's light symbolizes the Shin belief that the deceased has become one with the Buddha of infinite light and life, and now illuminates our lives. In that manner, our loved ones are always with us, connected to us, and embracing us with the wisdom and compassion of enlightenment. And the service is usually followed by the Bonadori. You know, it varies from temple to temple. Sometimes it's the same day, sometimes it's the next weekend, sometimes a different amount of separation between them, but they always do follow in some way. And this is a set of ritualistic dances where we celebrate and remember the lives of those who have passed away, and simultaneously celebrate the lives of all who are present around us as we dance. And it's considered a joyful gathering. Each motion of the dances has meaning. It's very similar to how the motions of the Hawaiian hula have meaning, tell a story, have purpose, and touch us in our hearts as we do them. Because this is a time when truly the living and deceased are said to be celebrating together while being embraced by the infinite wisdom and compassion of the entire universe. And I'm just grateful, personally, that the dances come from Japanese folk dances and not from my ancestors or cultural predecessors, because I'd be really exhausted dancing the fast-paced polka for a couple of hours at a time. So ritual connects us, and it settles us, and it uplifts us, it soothes us, it strengthens us, and it even heals us. Bon dances are rituals of remembrance and joy, connecting us to those who have gone before us and celebrating the truth that our loved ones remain in our lives even after their death. Rituals such as chanting or Obon dancing are powerful because they're deliberate and intentional activity. The connection we feel when we perform these rituals can transcend time and space, and it unites us with all life, even giving meaning to our own existence. So I hope that this year during Obon season, you might get to experience these rituals and awaken a heart of compassion, and then leap and dance with joy. Please join me once again in Gasho. When I attain Buddhahood, I will cause my name to be heard throughout the countless Buddha lands of the 8 quarters, the zenith, and the nadir. All Buddhas will preach my virtues and the perfections of my land to the multitudes of monks in their own lands. There will be none among the devas, human beings, and even insects that fly, crawl, or creep who, upon hearing my name, fails to awaken a heart of compassion. Dancing with joy, they will all be enabled to come and be born in my land. Namo Amida Butts, Namo Amida Butts, Namandab, 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 Namandab.